In all cardiology randomized trials, traditionally there has been an underrepresentation of, for instance, female patients. Or you can say there's an overrepresentation of males. And this is something which is of course not true, and this is not, which is not desirable, because we need to depict in clinical trials a true picture of all the figures of our today's society. And therefore, I personally believe it is very important to include female, male in a 1-to-1 ratio. It is also important to include other ethnicities, which are of course also part of our society. Atrial fibrillation is a worldwide disease, and we know that atrial fibrillation may affect males, for instance, versus females in different stages. We know that heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, HFpEF, is predominantly a female disease, but those patients are typically and have typically been not represented and snapshot in clinical trials so far. And therefore, it is so important, and it should be our effort to also include those patients in clinical trials such as AVANT-GUARD. Including patients in clinical trials starts all with us, the investigators. We need to think about this, about this problem, and therefore we need to enroll patients, not only the typical male 65-year-old Caucasian patient, we also need to include females and people of color. AVANT-GUARD is randomizing persistent atrial fibrillation patients which have been naive for antiarrhythmic drugs or catheter ablation. First-line ablation in persistent atrial fibrillation. The trial we have been asking for, and it's randomizing in a 2-to-1 fashion catheter ablation using the FARAPULSE device, including posterior wall ablation, versus antiarrhythmic drug medication. And it is important, of course, to create randomized trials, data from randomized trials, in order to give a true evidence-based a recommendation to our patients. And therefore, this trial is so important. We know that early treatment of atrial fibrillation for paroxysmal AF, for instance, delays progression into persistent forms of atrial fibrillation. We know that AF burden plays a major role in subsequent diseases such as heart failure or stroke risk. And therefore, AVANT-GUARD is so important to already also randomize patients and treat patients at an early stage with persistent atrial fibrillation. In our institution, we also brought it to a different level with regards to very early treatment, because we do randomize patients from the emergency room. We randomize patients cardioversion from the ER versus first-line ablation using electroporation PFA FARAPULSE. And of course, this is an ambitious study, but I'm very, very curious for the outcomes of both clinical trials. I believe it is very important and crucial to perform and to have a successful AVANT-GUARD trial, to get in touch with our physician colleagues from the emergency room, to get in touch with our physician colleagues working as an GP, but also as an outpatient cardiologist, in order to pre-screen those patients with persistent AFib and to educate those colleagues to get in touch with us in order to randomize patients in the AVANT-GUARD trial. There's no ideal candidate for AVANT-GUARD. There's any patients with persistent atrial fibrillation fulfilling the inclusion and exclusion criteria and therefore being suitable to get randomized in this trial. We don't want to select specific patients. No, we want to be diverse. We want to include males, but also females. And therefore, all patients meeting the inclusion criteria should be screened for the AVANT-GUARD trial. I believe it is very important to have a contact information available for potential partners referring patients suitable for the AVANT-GUARD trial. So in our center, we do have a study team, and we do have an email address. We do have social media contacts, and whenever a patient with persistent atrial fibrillation may be suitable for the AVANT-GUARD trial, I would invite all partners to send those patient information to this contact information, and then of course our center, we would move on to check for inclusion exclusion criteria to make it a success.